Got paid for it.
No fun.
I'm not, it's not fun. Not fun. But what, I mean, I exercise every day or lift a little bit, I was tired, but I'm
know
just
how
not,
that's gonna go.
I'm not scared of it, but I understand why some
Met
days.
with them out there
And we can't have another big
month and a half.
Oh, I hope so.
spread and lockdown.
Well, at least a month ago.
So I'm
School
sympathetic
system
with
did
all
go, our summer school
And
was
they had
actually
it.
optional.
Did you have it? Did
I
you
would
get
say
it?
maybe
They added 5
one in
sections.
It was tough.
It was real bad.
one in.
Oh,
I had
you're
asthma.
younger.
I had asthma when I was a kid, and I thought I outgrew it until
I have
COVID.
not,
And I never really had trouble
See
breathing.
there?
This is my-
Yeah, that
That's
was
yours.
scary. Dave.
I never had,
I don't know how
I mean, it's
long.
been 30 years since I had a problem with it until I had COVID. When they brought it back.
Oh, that is a
I got
bummer.
some
See, that would
It was
scare
scary.
me.
For all of June, we stayed true to it, gotta have it on it
People,
all the time.
yeah, have
Now it's
a
optional.
rough time with it. Or, yeah, we had,
You teach history class, right?
Santa, yeah, history government.
Well, here's computer. Ask you after the meeting.
There's nothing going on with the history curriculum in the country, is there? I didn't think so.
I have 9/11 questions for you.
Yeah.
I'll ask you.
Of course, I wouldn't be the guy to ask, it's only been 32 years. George, one of my top students.
What?
Thanks, George. Thank you, George.
that's my favorite teacher, by the way. I'm telling you right now. I love the man. He's very understanding.
Students come in. and
With
join.
that, we'll
There we
call
go.
this meeting to order.
George.
I did good.
If
I did get
everyone
in with
please
that.
rise, we will begin with our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. No more lies. We're in session. Okay, we'll begin with the approval of the minutes of the last meeting. You should all have received that in the board pack. And ask if there are any changes, corrections, additions, deletions.
I didn't see anything in there, did you? Anybody?
What's your glasses?
Oh, I see. Oh, having looked at it now, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
George makes a motion to accept,
I'll second.
and Jeff seconds that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The minutes are approved as presented. Thank you very much. Back to the, we'll move on to the approval of claims. And I see we have a number of those.
We have a few. All right, a lot of them.
Did you find those?
So Barnes and Thornburg for 1,080 is legal services for the last amendment to the Northern TIF plan. A&Z Engineering is for County 300 North and 200 North engineering work that's underway. It's $5,826.97. Plus Shadley is for ongoing legal services concerning the Warsaw Chemical property. Wessler Engineering, $2,745 is for the contract we signed on the Airport Road lift station. DLZ in the amount of $19,000. I don't know if this is ours.
I was gonna say, my question is, what's that
Okay,
have to
some of
do?
it came out of Northern TIF for the US 30, okay. So 19,760 is for US 30 alignment study.
And what exactly does that entail? What is,
So it's a draft red flag study that we're conducting on what US 30 looks like through Warsaw.
okay?
So it's identifying potential red flags if you were to go north, stay on route.
Yes.
You know, what are the challenges? that type of thing.
Yeah, we had that discussion.
Yeah, so that we can share that with the public when we're gonna have a stakeholder meeting probably in the next month, and then we're gonna have some public meetings to discuss, you know, what the future of US 30 looks like with the public. But we wanted enough information so that we can share, you know, what does that impact look like? What are the red flags? What are the hurdles? rather than just hearsay.
And how does that become part of redevelopment?
Because the northern tip is all along US 30.
Gotcha.
It's gonna be
If you're-
significantly impacted.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. Thank you.
But to manage expectations, Jeremy, I mean, whatever suggestions our community makes to NDOT is just
Still
a suggestions, right? Not, they're not going to do what we ask just because we're such great people, right?
It is,
Well put.
but I will say this, if the community supports,
Yes.
you know, so you're right.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're about to say, but go ahead and say it, yeah.
Yeah, if the community supports significant direction, they're going to take that into consideration.
Exactly.
Now, they still have a huge federal process to follow that takes years and environmental documents and all that they have to do, regardless of what we do. But if we kind of lay the plan in front of them and say, you know, this is why, and here's some of the impacts that, you know, this other route might have, or what the benefit to the city is, they're certainly going to take that into consideration when they do their environmental studies and the engineering and the planning that goes into it. So I think it's very important for us to not just hand them a blank piece of paper.
Right.
To at least hand them a piece of paper that says, you know, the city supports this, and this is why we support it. If you were going to do this, we would support this, and that's why we support it, so that you're not just giving them a blank piece of paper. Because if you give them a blank piece of paper, they're gonna do whatever's most convenient to them,
Exactly.
not most convenient to the city.
Santa Claus brings the gifts, but he always wants the list.
Yeah, that's a
What do you
great
want?
analogy. Look at
And
that.
that's where, what do we want? And then, okay, it might or might not, but at least the list was created, so.
I
Yes.
like the stoplights on Center Street. Never mind.
Like, hey, that's
Hey,
what he's talking about, yeah, so. Sometimes you get what you get.
That's right. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the-
Redevelopment Association of Indiana, these are just our yearly dues, $125, and that, and you see the membership list so that is for my membership, and then all of you are listed as kind of sub-members to my membership. So
I
you
get
all
plenty of
have
email-
access
get
to that
emails.
information. Yeah.
Continuously, don't you?
So you all have access to that information, law changes and so forth. Cottage Watchman Security System, $2,496. This is for the camera system at the new Plaza Park. Baker Tilly, $4,640 is for the amendment it's for the plan amendment we just did to the Northern Tip District. Is that it?
I think
Yep,
that's it.
that's it. So those are the claims. Any questions?
I think you already answered mine.
Just out of curiosity, the Cottage Watchman EF roads I noticed there were only 2 cameras on there, but they're turret, so they can go around. And does that really cover like at the beach and all that, or what?
Main primary was just to cover the plaza,
Just-
the fountain, and
Okay.
the art the
Okay.
sculpture.
It's pretty impressive that they can cover all that with 2 cameras.
So where's the other end of that? Who's watching the
Parks Department.
That's the Parks
Yeah.
Department? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they requested we add that to the plaza project, so we did.
Very good idea.
No objections. Okay. Very good.
I'd make a motion that we approve claims as presented.
Have a motion from Rick. Approve the claims as presented.
I'll second that.
Mr. Clemens seconds that. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Claims are approved as presented. Thank you very much. And thank you
Hey,
for all of our
apologies.
harassment.
It's all right.
We give
Good
you.
afternoon.
Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Tim.
Let the minutes show that Mike is.
You only missed the pledge, and we gave you 3 committee assignments.
Okay, typical George.
Yeah, and you're the
Thanks,
chairman, by the
George.
way. Thank you.
Gosh, it's
Okay.
good to see
New
everybody.
Yeah, isn't it
business.
great to be back in
Wow.
person? Yeah,
Everybody's here.
Yeah,
great crew.
full house. These guys had to bring their own seats.
Stay here long.
Welcome back, Kim.
Nice to see nothing's changed.
Yeah. Okay, new business. First is the Buffalo Street Plaza.
Yeah, so we
Change
have
order?
change order number 6 before you for the Buffalo Street Plaza. So this project was paid out of a number of different accounts, but any overages were gonna be paid out of redevelopment allocation, which is the central TIF. The final change order is actually a deduction of $95,000, which is never a bad thing. There are some increases in the total, but I think there was a $3,600 increase for time and material for the boardwalk decking. If you've been out there, we did change the way that decking was laid out a little bit because of the way the planking's run. There was also some additional cost to the footers for the pavilion, or the pergola, whatever you want to call it, $3,283. And the rest of it were actually deductions in material cost. So everything was unit cost on material. So as the project goes on, it's estimated unit cost and material. When at the final billing, we go through all the quantities, and then that adjusts the price of the project, which is why it resulted in a $95,047.61 in actual reduction to the total project.
So the 95,000 is a net reduction after some reductions and some increases.
Yeah.
Net 95,000,
Yes.
4761 reduction. Very good. Questions? Discussion?
Wish that could happen more often.
Don't we all, right? You know, with any project, sometimes you go over materials, sometimes you go under materials. Obviously, in this project, we were under quite a bit in materials.
Very good. Okay, so we need a motion to approve this
Change order number 6.
change order number 6.
So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve from Jeff and second by Mike. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
This will
So
go
that's
before,
blush.
go ahead, sorry.
Change order for the number 6 for the Buffalo Street project is approved.
This will go before Board of Works on Monday. I think we moved that meeting to Monday.
It
but
is Monday.
They will, since the project was kind of both redevelopment and some edit funds and some other funds, it'll go before both, but it'll go before them on Monday.
Okay. So does it come back to us ever, or did they approve it? and it's-
The
it's
final claim, the final bill will come to us because all that's left is redevelopment money to pay out. We already used the edit, and if you remember
That-
correctly, there was about $1,615,000 in regional cities money that went into this project, and then some edit funds, and then redevelopment allocation or central TIF funds.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Moving on to new business item number 2, the Real America Arnold Property Development Agreement.
So a year ago, we applied to ICDA. We did not get awarded funds, but in conversations with the developer, we wanted to continue to seek out funds for this project. Last year, we signed a real estate conveyance agreement. This is just re-signing that same agreement. There was one change, but the only change, and I did run it by our attorney, I think there was a conveyance document that had to be signed. And in speaking with the ICDA, they came to an agreement that that wasn't necessary, so we removed that from this agreement.
Okay.
So it's pretty much the same conveyance agreement we signed last year that would convey the Arnold property to them in the event that they are awarded ICDA funds for the affordable family housing project.
And if not, this becomes null and void.
Becomes null and void, yeah.
Very good.
Can I assume they've not closed on those 14 lots? Or do they have options on them, or have they?
The other lots that are next to the Arnold property,
Mm.
they have options on them.
Okay.
Yeah, they
So
have
they're
not
probably
closed.
not going to exercise it unless they get.
Yep, they're not going to purchase that property unless they're awarded IHCDA funds. Yeah.
And that hasn't changed since the first agreement.
Nope.
And Scott has looked this over and approved it.
Yeah, I sent it to him because of the modification. He reviewed this last year, and then I sent the same agreement to him and referenced the modification based on the IHCDA feedback that didn't need to be in there. And he agreed that it could be removed, and I sent him a copy of the amended agreement, and he approved it.
So less is more.
Yep.
Any other questions? Nope. Discussion? Hearing none.
Hearing none and knowing that Scott's reviewed this and there's no, just the one change, I'll make a motion to approve of this.
Okay, George makes a motion to approve as presented,
Second?
and Mr. Snodgrass seconds that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The agreement, conveyance agreement will be approved as presented.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on, under new business is the transfer resolution. I assume we're just transferring money.
Yes, so this resolution will also go before the city council on Monday, because of two things. One, they have edit money in it, so we're approving. I didn't want to, I talked to the clerk and she said it wasn't necessary for me to do two different transfer resolutions. So the first part of this resolution is germane to the Redevelopment Commission in that we are moving money from 444 in redevelopment allocation to 380, which is debt service. And I think I alluded to this last year and this year. I had the wrong bond payment schedules for two of our bonds, one in redevelopment allocation and the other one in the northern TIF. Usually at the end of the bond issue, I get a payment schedule. The last couple of times we've done bond issues, for whatever reason, the payment schedule that's been in the bond closing documents is not what goes to the bank. So then the bank sends a bond schedule payment that the clerks got, but somehow I didn't end up getting them the last couple of years. So there's a shortfall within the debt service of $7,050, so that's what I'm asking to request to transfer from other buildings, 444 to 380, to cover that bond payment.
And it's still within the 472.
Yeah, it's all,
TIF.
we're not asking for any additional funding, this
Right.
is just transferring funding.
Right. Questions? Hearing none.
I make a motion, we approve the transfer?
Rick makes a motion to make the transfer for the redevelopment portion.
Correct.
Okay. So
Second.
noted.
Second?
And Jeff seconds that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries for the redevelopment portion of the transfer from the, within the 472 district. Okay. Moving on. Okay, we're down to item number 4, which is the approval of the budgets. You all had these in there, in your packets, and I believe Jeremy gave us all some preliminary information in advance. We found a few corrections. I think I have one other that maybe I just have a question about.
Okay.
But, is there anything that you would like to add to?
Well, why don't
what
we go
have?
through these one at a time, and then if you have any questions, you can ask them, and then
Works.
we'll just kind of approve each budget as we go. I think the first one is Winona Interurban 475.
Yes, it is.
So we have a current balance at the beginning of this year of 60,000. We have a $50,000 budget this year, which left us with about an ending balance of a little over 19,000. So going into next year, we expect revenue of 8,500. So based on the money that we have available, now there's 50,000 in this budget, doesn't necessarily mean we're going to spend it. We've allocated it to a couple of different projects, Arnold and Agaki. So it's there to be spent on those projects if something were to come to fruition, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be spent. So next year, looking at the funds we do have on hand, assuming the money is spent out of the 50,000, we'd have roughly 27,000 available for 2022. So I just kind of split it up into two categories, one being professional services, engineering, 10,000, and the other being capital outlays, 15,000, which will give us some flexibility. We may have to move some money around depending on what may transpire next year. We do have a couple of, obviously we have the Arnold project we're trying to get through the IHCDA. We're in discussions with a developer on the Gaki site. We have ongoing discussions with Warsaw Chemical on what their future looks like in some of their facilities. This district was expanded a couple of years ago, and so that shopping center that went into receivership. It's in receivership now, so it's on the market up for sale. That's in the district, so there could be potential project there. So we're just basically setting aside some money in those two categories that could be moved around depending on what comes to fruition next year.
That whole shopping center where the BMV is,
Yep.
that whole thing.
Yep. It went into receivership a few months back. They're actively seeking a buyer for it now. From what I understand, they've got 4 or 5 interested parties, so we'll see what transpires.
Okay.
Do they have a deadline that they have to?
Yeah, it'll probably
settle
be, I think they said a couple of weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they've been doing, it's been in this process for about 3 months now.
Okay. And a significant reduction in the capital outlays there, but that could. from-
We could do an additional appropriation next year, but from a budgeting perspective, there's 50,000 in this year's budget. We could still spend all 50,000 of that, so I can't
Yeah.
budget that money for next year.
Right.
Without cutting it out of this year's.
Right.
So.
If
we're
we
just
don't,
going-
it'll be on the same project.
If we don't, there will be more money available next year that we could do an additional appropriation if need be.
Right.
So is most of the money going into the new Arnold property project?
Some of it right now most of it's just going for legal services for our ongoing discussions with Warsaw Chemical and the Arnold property. I guess I didn't say this. So a couple of weeks ago, we did get awarded through the IFA, Indiana IFA, $500,000 in EPA funds for the Arnold, Gaki, and Warsaw Chemical sites. So the IFA, on our behalf, in discussions with them, applied for additional EPA funds. Every year, the EPA has so much money, they give grants away. Some of that money doesn't get spent, it comes back to them, and they do additional grants. And entities can apply for those grants. The state agreed to apply for those grants on our behalf because of the projects that we are doing with the Arnold and the Warsaw Chemical and trying to get those brownfields back to productive properties. They felt like that was a good grant for them to go after. They went after it, they were awarded it. So we have a pot of money at the state that we can go after to clean up the Arnold and the Warsaw Chemical and the Gaki site. A lot of what we use it for, we have to determine now. We've got the Arnold site in the ICDA, so if we get the ICDA grant, we're probably going to spend a lot of that money in cleaning up that Arnold site and the demolition and getting rid of any contaminants on the property. Depending on what happens, some of it could go towards Warsaw Chemical or Gaki, so we've got a little bit of flexibility, but we've got some work to do on our end to decide what direction we're going with those funds.
Do we need a specific project
Yes.
in process in order to get the $500,000?
Yes.
What was the question, Tim?
I'm sorry. I was asking him if we had to have a specific project in process in order to get the $500,000 grant money available to us.
So
in
we have to.
Clean up.
On any of those properties?
So we have to come
It
to
within that.
them with a project, right? And that project could be as simple as us saying, we want to demolish Arnold property and clean up the contaminants. It doesn't have to be that we have to have something that's gonna fill that void, but we have to come and say, this is what we're going to do with the money, and it has to be Brownsfield related, like it has to be actual cleanup related.
To meet their guidelines and requirements, right?
So the same thing with the GACI, we could use it potentially to demo the GACI, some of the GACI property, and clean up
Good
any
news, really.
contaminants there.
Big
We could
time.
use it to help with the ongoing cleanup of the Warsaw Chemical Site and the process that they're in. So we have some flexibility, and those are all the things that we need to determine what direction we're gonna go, what projects we're going to initiate with those funds.
In your estimation, just about any project that we would initiate in those properties would require cleanup. Is that not
Yes.
true?
Yeah, oh yeah, hands down,
Okay.
That's the challenge, isn't it?
yeah. And
That's what the
Arnold,
money is.
I mean, I think Arnold's probably going to be the target of these funds. I mean, we're really hopeful that we're gonna get the ICDA funding. I'd love nothing more than to spend the money to demo that property, clean it up, and then have a developer build on it.
Yeah.
Which
So
in
that's
turn
just-
would put more money in the coffers that we could hopefully do something with GACI, because as I sit here every year, I always think about Charlie Smith sitting over here.
Demo that.
When are we gonna get that GACI property? And he was on that year after year after year, and this year it'll be
I think,
5 years since he's gone.
I
And we're
agree.
still sitting on
Yep.
a shell of a building.
And not one of us disagreed with him.
No,
No,
but
and I would-
our
I
hands
would
are tied
absolutely agree.
financially, we can't do anything.
Right.
I think the whole community agrees, right? We want something, we just don't know how to do it, right? That's
Yeah.
the challenge.
Well, it's the money.
Yeah, it's-
So by-
that's what I mean, it's a huge
By
challenge.
investing EPA money in this thing, if we can help somebody get this thing up and going and get that money back in the TIF and on the tax rolls, then
Yep.
we can plow some of that money back over to GAC.
yes, you're absolutely right.
I'd be all for that.
Yeah,
And I think if that project happens, Arnold, that'll encourage others to want to do
Yes.
something at GAC. It's just a snowball.
I was hoping that Greg Cobb's, stepping forward would accelerate it, but things take time. I
Yeah.
get it, but at
Yeah,
least we're moving.
yeah, and I think it has. I mean, it cleaned up that area pretty dramatically, right, compared to what it
Yes.
was.
Yes.
So someone willing to invest in, 60 residential units, if you would have asked them 5 years ago, I don't know that they would have the same energy that they do now with the gas station being there and all remodeled, and the green space, the walking, the sidewalks. I mean, it's a whole different image than what it was 5 years ago, so. But it does take time, and it's just,
It does.
it's like the shopping center. I mean, it's been on its way down. I mean, I'm hoping that the new entity that owns this shopping center will be willing to come to us and say, what can we do? How can we help them create something better? I've had a lot of discussions with those developers, and I'm encouraged by the discussions that maybe they'll come to the table with something other than just, hey, I'm gonna buy this on the cheap and then turn around and lease it out, right, on the cheap.
Bring some anchor stores with you.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
good discussions with them. I'm encouraged that maybe we'll see some good things happen to that shopping mall.
I hope you're right.
So, we'll see.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Any questions on the 475?
Questions? Hearing none, let's move on to the next one, which is the salaries, but it's also redevelopment general.
Yeah, I
underneath
kind of
it.
connected or attached the salaries for my department to this budget, but it's actually just the redevelopment general budget. And I did it for a reason, obviously. Some of the funds, wage funds will come out of redevelopment general, but some of them come out of Northern TIF and sewage collection as well. So this is just for your information on the salaries and where the funds are coming out of. But the real budget obviously is the 271. So currently, beginning of 2021, we had roughly 433,000 in there. Expected revenue for 2021 is 57. which gave us around 490,000 in 2021 funds available. We have a budget of 231,000, which we may or may not spend all of it, but that is the budget we have, which leaves us for 2021, 258,000 plus additional revenue of 57, a total of $315,000 and 500, a little over 315,000 in funds for 2022. So we have wages and benefits, which we have not had in the past in this budget, 72,000. We have office supplies of 3,000, professional services of 30, travel of 500, printing of 2,500. Our typical bonds, which are typically in this budget of 500 for the Redevelopment Commission members. Other services of 6,500, and then we still have roughly 200,000 we're going to put in infrastructure projects, which gives us a total budget of 315,000 for 2022.
So you're taking this sucker down to near zero, and break even now.
Yeah, some of it will be obviously based on whether, I mean, we have 200,000 in infrastructure projects, which we could spend this year. I don't think we're gonna end up spending all of it, so it's not going to be as dire as it does look on this piece of paper. There will probably be $60,000 or $70,000 that we don't end up spending in this year's. There are some money we have already allocated. We agreed to pay for the sewage pumps.
Yep.
For
Yes, we
the
did.
affordable housing, so I think that was like 15 or 16,000 there. So some of the money, obviously, we will spend, but not, or as of right now, I don't have all 200,000 of that earmarked. So, and I'm not anticipating we're gonna spend all 200,000, so there'll probably be some funds that won't get spent out of this year's budget.
Jeremy, is there any one project kind of stands out that money might go into? Do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. And that's the beauty of the redevelopment general, it's the entire city. So we could spend it on Gacky, we could spend it on Arnold, we could spend it on the Owens project, our downtown project. I don't have any one specifically earmarked. It will probably be which one rises to the top. And that's the one we'll probably spend some funds on.
Just a minor point on the budget estimator sheet, next page down. There's a account number, salaries and wages. There's no description in there, but there's an amount. I believe that's salaries.
Yes, the 111 is salaries, yeah.
So we need to just fill
Fill that blank in.
blank in, if you would, please.
Oh, I can do that.
It's the auditor. Yeah, that's disgusting. But it's minor. As long as we got that account number, that's important.
That's where the money comes from. I'll
Okay.
fix that sheet.
Thank you.
So any questions on 271?
Questions, discussion for the general? Okay. We'll move on then to the northern.
Is this the northern residential?
Yes.
All right, so this is the one I think I changed and sent you a new one. Originally, I'd sent you a draft, and then after I sent that draft, I had received some of the first estimated revenue off of that, and then I made some adjustments for next year. So expected revenue this year, which is higher than what I originally anticipated, was going to be around 80,000. In this year's budget, we had 10,000 in professional and 10 in capital outlays, which are just placeholders. We can move that money around if necessary, which gave us a total budget of 20,000. And a year-end balance, assuming the revenue stays as projected, of roughly 60,000. I expect us to bring in maybe around 100,000 next year, which gives us roughly 160,000 for the 2022 budget. And once again, I'm just placing them in professional services, 30,000, and then capital outlays, 120,000, which could be used for any projects. Which gives us a total budget for next year of 150,000.
Any questions on that?
We
This
do
is
have.
a brand new one, so we
Yes.
really don't have a
This is-
good handle on what the what the total estimated revenues are going to be for sure, but this is our best estimate.
This is a pretty good estimate. I mean, the only reason I was off on the northern residential TIF is I did not anticipate the revenue from Redwood being caught in the TIF because it was kind of in the middle of construction. But the way it worked out, some of that didn't get assessed until after we had made it the residential TIF, which is why it was higher. Is everyone familiar with the Redwood development? Yeah, so that's the bulk of the reason why this has higher revenue than what was anticipated.
Refresh my memory.
It's where the two new hotels are. It's all the housing that's behind those
To the west?
to the west. Yeah.
Okay.
So that housing got caught in the TIF, but I didn't anticipate its revenue counting because of when we created the TIF district. It was already under construction. A large portion of it was under construction. So we did not capture all of that revenue generated from that development. We just captured what hadn't been assessed prior to us creating that district.
And you can see there's a significant
Yes.
amount of increase for this.
I think it was
next year.
about 50,000. Outside of that, we would have been about 30, we would have been about right where I had estimated us being at, off a little bit here and there, but pretty close to where I had estimated.
If you drive through that, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. How long did that sit, just a road and green grass?
Years.
And now 2 new hotels,
Yeah.
and goodness, how many units are in there?
Oh,
90,
man. Car
90
wash
some
coming in
residential
there.
units?
It's big, had a budget in there.
Yeah, crazy.
It'd be great if we could get the same results over here
Yeah,
on Argonne Road area.
yeah.
I agree.
New hotel or something would be great.
Do we know how many of
That'd be
those are
nice.
occupied?
Pretty something.
I think they have a pretty high occupancy rate. I don't know offhand, but if I had to guess, it's probably in the 90%.
Really? Good. So we're needed.
Oh, yeah. Well, we still need housing.
Yeah.
Just put your house up for sale and you'll find out how bad we need housing.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next one, which is the Warsaw Technology Park.
So current balance, beginning of 2021 was a little over 1.3 million. Expected revenue for this year is around 300,000, which gave us a total of 1.6 million for 2021 funds. This year's budget had 50,000 professional services, our 60,000 OrthoWorks agreement, and 600,000 in capital outlays. Total budget of 717,000, which leaves us at the end of this year roughly 931,000. Once again, expected revenue of 2022 of 300,000 gives us the total funds on hand in 2022 of 1.2 million. Budget roughly 150,000 in professional services. We still have, I think this is next year will be the last year for our OrthoWorks contract. And then we have $1 million of placing in capital outlays. And this could go for transportation improvements to 200 and 300. It could go towards our innovation center, depending on how far along we are in that concept. So just kind of a pot of money we can use for those projects that are allocated within the technology park, whether it be for infrastructure and or the innovation center.
Which is a significant increase over this year, but could be
Well,
some
we-
major projects.
Yeah, we've been growing those funds, and we have some projects on the horizon that we have to do. Main one is, in our last report on the tech park, our number one goal is, next 4 years, is to get the innovation center in place. So, to me, the primary focus of these funds are probably going to go towards that. We have the Northern TIF, we have infrastructure money, we can do 200. This might supplement some of that work that needs to be done, but the technology increment that we're getting, we need to meet those goals that we told the state we were going to meet, and one of those being that innovation center. So we need to work on what that looks like in the next 4 years.
Any other questions on this, on the technology park? Okay. Very good. And the next one is the Southern Residential, I believe.
Yeah, so this one I didn't get amended because we were within about $400 of where I estimated we would be at. So expected revenue for 2021 is roughly $35,000, which gave us total funds on hand. And 2021, let's see, there's an error there. Of 35,000, we had a budget of 20,000. Once again, we just kind of spread it out between professional service and capital outlays. Well, it leaves us a year-end balance of 15,000. I expect the revenue will grow in 2022 to around 60,000, which will give us roughly 75,000 for 2022. And again, I've just split that between professional services and capital outlays for 35,000 apiece, which gives us a budget of 70,000. We do have some projects we're working on in the Southern Residential TIF. I'm hoping we'll sign an engineering contract to start design on a southern lift station that will make available 3 tracts of property for development, one of which we've had preliminary conversations with the developer, and they have an option to buy and develop as soon as we initiate our design, and they can get a time frame for when we're going to put that lift station in. So some things in the work in that district, and certainly these funds will go towards that. They are not going to be enough to cover the $1 million we have to spend in that area. So we'll be kind of, we'll use some funds that we do have, and this fund will ultimately pay those funds back to those other budgets as it develops out.
And again, Jeremy, where is that Southern TIF district?
It's pretty much the bulk of the residential south of the high school. It takes in all the property north of Eisenhower, and then west of Eisenhower, and east of Eisenhower.
So they're pretty much south of the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
within
That was
the
kind of
city
our
limits.
target area. We annexed around 100-some acres down there for development.
Right.
The acreage we're looking at now is not actually in the city yet, so the goal of this would be to annex that in and include it in this residential TIF, so to actually be adding some acreage to that residential TIF.
About how many?
I think the initial one is about 40,
Okay.
about maybe a little less, 30-some acres. And then there's 2 other tracks that would probably be about another 100. Overall, I think we could probably develop somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 residential units. So in terms of the return on investment, when we look at that, we're going to invest $1 million, but the return on investment and just tap fees alone is probably going to be around $600,000 just in tap fees for every single house that gets tapped on. And then per tax, you're looking at somewhere between, on the low end, maybe $1,500 per unit. So our return on investment is going to be pretty good if we see full development.
Right.
And that'll take a while.
It will take a while.
How does that impact the capacity of the sewage treatment plant?
We have plenty of capacity now.
Yeah, you do. Okay.
If anything, it will help, because the more we add to it, the larger the revenue jumps up, which helps pay for the bond issue. Right now, we're paying for that bond issue on the number of units and sewer that we're providing now, but we have the capacity for like 2 million in growth, right? So the sooner that growth happens, it's a plus and minus, right? But we do have the capacity.
Okay.
And this will certainly help in terms of revenue towards the long term of that sewer plant operation.
And the Marsh building is excluded from all TIF districts at this point,
Both the Marsh and Owens are.
and no one's.
And so when we initiate those projects, we'll have to bring those in. And the reason we excluded them is because they're being assessed downwards. So if we were to bring them in and they continue to lose value, that impacts our TIF.
Right.
So negatively. So when we bring them in, we want them to be at a low value, not a high value, so that when we are able to develop them, we can use that revenue to incentivize the project, which is the end goal.
Right. Okay. Any other questions about Southern TIF? Southern residential TIF, I should say.
Since you brought up grocery stores, but we'll leave that for another discussion.
Yeah, that's right.
So noted. Thank you.
Good choice.
Okay. Next TIF district is the redevelopment Northern TIF.
Yes. So current balance beginning of 2021 was around 4.6 million. Expected revenue this year around 2.9, which gives us a total of 7.5 million for 2021. Our current budget for 2021 is 2.8 million with about $1 million in infrastructure projects. That was kind of earmarked to go towards those road and infrastructure projects. Given what's transpired in the last 2 years, we haven't embarked on starting any of them. So a lot of this money is probably not going to get spent out of this year's budget, and we did move some for professional services so we can complete that engineering. And then we'll target a project for next year on 300 North. I talked about it a lot, and we'll go through this budget real quick. So beginning in 2022, we've got about 4.7 million, 2.9 million in revenue, gives us about 7.6 million for 2022. Salaries, some of mine and James, the city engineer salaries, comes out of Northern TIF, so about 105,000 in salaries. Sewage bond pledge of 600,000, still for the existing bond that will be paid off shortly, and then the new bond that they've issued for that sewer plant. So 600,000 comes out of Northern TIF to pay for those bond issues. Wynonna PVD bond, 279,510 for the first one. The second one, 113,300. The third one, 54,925. Thompson and Thrift is the Warsaw Commons bond of 120,863, and then the new airport industrial park bond of 370,500. 225,000 in professional services for next year. The property acquisition, the 5,000 is just a placeholder. We will, if we do initiate the 300 North project next year, we will have right away that we'll have to purchase, so we'll probably be moving some money into that fund. And then 2 million for infrastructure projects, which my target right now for that fund would be 300 North. I don't know where it's going to come in cost-wise, so it may be broken out into segments depending on what that cost is, but we're working with the street department. It's a big thorn in their side. It's the only gravel road we have in the city. It's not a road that they can maintain. Obviously, there's
Just half the road.
yeah, half the road. And there's some intersection issues that we need to deal with. So that's our number one project, infrastructure related for that Northern TIF district for 2022. Total budget of 3.8 million gives us an estimated year-end balance for 2022 of 3.7 million. Keep in mind, we do have $1 million invested in this Northern TIF district that is not represented in these numbers.
Jeremy, on that 300 North extension that's now not paved,
Yes.
it's probably not a well-traveled road, is it? It's probably doesn't get a lot of use.
No, it's because it's gravel.
Right, right.
It's not going to get a lot of use, no.
So I guess where I was headed with that line of question is, if we do invest in the money, are you projecting that traffic will pick up on that road, and if so, why?
It will eventually as the technology park develops out. And primary reason is as that park develops out, you're going to have more employees. And most people tend to gravitate towards controlled intersections. So if I'm leaving that industrial park, I'm going to gravitate to those intersections that allow me to move through them. Whereas on Polk Drive, you stop on Polk Drive, but Sylvia's Crossing is free flowing. So as that park continues to develop, as more traffic, Sylvia's Crossing is going to have more traffic. I'm probably going to exit out and go up to 300, go to the four-way stop, which is controlled, and I'm going to be able to move through it without trying to jump out across 4 lanes of traffic. Now, a lot of that going to change as US 30 evolves too. So a lot of this is there's a lot of cards in the air. We're not, so the design for 300 North is not, our major corridor is Polk Drive. That's where the walking path connects up to the school and then runs all the way down 300 North and connects with the shopping. So we're not continuing that on, but the road does need to be improved. There's some hill, we're cutting out some of the hill because there's some visibility issues there. So we're cutting down some of that hill to increase visibility. So there's some safety issues on the road, the fact that it's gravel, drainage not controlled. So a lot of the things we're doing are more infrastructure related to that. We're not making it the Taj Mahal of roads by any stretch of the imagination. But it does need to be paved because we don't maintain gravel roads. And we need a storm system that's gonna work. Now, there's acreage north of that intersection that's probably gonna develop in the near future. So that'll factor into some of the improvements at that intersection as well, and traffic.
I see that as probably the most
Yep.
potential there because that wooded area. to the
Well, we
north-
want to get the right of way we need to make these improvements prior to its development.
Right.
That's important.
Right.
Is that gravel all the way over to 400, or is it about a mile
Yeah,
stretch?
It's gravel. So in conjunction with us doing our project, the county is going to pave the other section of that road. So we're going to pave our section, and my understanding is, once we've completed ours, they're going to, I don't know if they're going to chip and seal or pave, but they're going to come in behind and pave the section as it continues west.
Thank you. Had to ask.
Nope, good question.
I would make a suggestion on the line that says salary up
Mhm.
there. It should be, you might want to say salary and benefits so that people don't get the idea that's all salary.
Good point.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, for this one right here.
Yeah.
Those words are
Yeah.
important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can be.
Yeah, especially if it's on the front page of the paper, people might misinterpret things.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the
You never know what
budget.
the
It's happened
yeah, you're
before
right.
for
On the budget,
my
it's
company.
broken out, but
You
I
never
just-
know what the press is gonna say.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good point.
Okay,
I made a note on here, and I'll try to do that for next year.
okay.
Any questions on the Northern TIF District?
That's the big one.
That's the big one.
Discussion, any? Okay.
I'd make a
Move on.
motion that
Oh,
the
wait a
budgets
minute, we
be
got
approved.
We got one more, don't we?
One more, last one.
472.
Redevelopment allocation.
Allocation.
Okay,
472.
sorry.
That's right.
But hold that thought.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Current balance, beginning of this year, 662,000 roughly. Expected revenue of 330,000, gave us a total funds of 992,000 for 2021. Utility services of 5,000, professional services of 25, property acquisition 5, capital outlays, we had 200,000, which was primary for the plaza, and then the Buffalo Street bond payment of 157,950, which gave us a total budget of this year of 392,000 and a year-end balance of just under 600,000. 300,000 in revenue for 2022 gives us roughly 929,000 in funds for 2022. Next year's budget, we have 50,000 for professional services, 5,000 for property acquisition, which is a placeholder more or less, and then $500,000 for capital outlays, and then our bond payment of 168,500, which gives us a total budget for 2022 of 723,500, and a year-end estimated balance at the end of 206,000. Still gives us our bond coverage. The $500,000 is primarily put in there for the Owens project. As we continue to develop that, that's what that $500,000 will be earmarked for.
Questions? Discussion?
I make a motion that we approve the budgets as presented.
Okay. Mr. Snodgrass makes a motion to accept these budgets as presented,
I'll second that.
and Mr. Clemens seconds that. Is there any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Budgets are approved. Thank you very much. I know that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of projects we have going on.
That's
Which is a
makes
good
it, makes
thing.
it a lot, of yeah,
Which is a good
which
thing.
makes it a lot of work.
So yeah, I mean, we're progressing with our lift station on the north side. We have the engineering contract for the south side, but we haven't signed it yet. We're still working on funding that. Plaza's pretty much completed. If you haven't, some of you were at the ribbon cutting. We still got some things to work on with the water, but we're working on solving those problems. And then mixed-use building, the buildings, the old Indiana American Water building's pretty much gone. So if you haven't seen that, walk down there and
So
see the
sad.
difference. Buffalo Street Townhomes, 3 of them are up.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna hear some good news about that here shortly, and then the Muse behind them, there's 4 of them under construction. So yeah, a lot going down there, a lot going on down there. Every time I drive by the 72-unit senior housing, it just looks a little better every day.
It's going up fast.
Bricks going up.
I saw that, I drive by it every day.
I'm excited to see that project done, and then knock on wood, hopefully we can bring the Arnold property looking like that a year and a half from now too, so.
Yeah, just residential property on Center Street, that's usually where the traffic is backed up to from the light, so we
Yeah.
sit and watch.
Sit and watch it, yeah.
Well, if you have grocery stores over there, there's not as many people that drive down Center Street. Right?
Okay. How about cross PVD, any
So-
changes that we should be aware of?
So they are in operation. I mean, they are enthusiastic about the direction they're going. I'm hoping they're able to take that business to new heights compared to maybe the management of the former. Their business model is completely different than Winona PVD's. Obviously, Winona PVD is centered on wheels. Their business model is coating anything and everything. So they have a larger, broader market and not necessarily relying on one individual to make their payments. They still do wheels, so they still have aftermarket wheel companies that they provide those services for. Met with them maybe a month ago. Really encouraged by their leadership and the people running the company. I think they have 9 or 10 employees already. So yeah, great positive things to come from them, I hope, and looking forward to see them grow out there.
How many employees are they hoping or estimating to attract?
I think per their ADC, I want to say it was like mid-60s or 70s.
Okay.
Is that Jamie like the CEO or the, no?
He's long gone.
Yeah, Jamie sold out of his.
Yeah, but isn't he, I thought he moved back.
Well, he owns Winona PVD powder coating. He
Okay,
still owns and operates that business.
okay.
The PVD portion of it, he sold to the investor group out of Florida.
I thought so. I thought maybe he was involved in buying it back or something.
Well, honestly, George, I don't know. I don't know where their money came from. I just know the 2 individuals we met with were not Jamie. I didn't ask them who invested in their company.
Well, he moved back and bought a home on the lake, so I don't know if he.
Well, his powder coating, the Winona
Good.
PVD
Yeah.
powder coating is doing well, obviously.
Doing well, yeah.
Pretty much always has.
Yeah. But the Cross PVD is a group of there's a individual out of Fort Wayne that owns a business there that operates not in the same, it's different. It's a plastic
industry.
molding company, but the PVD thing, he partnered with someone who's been in the industry for a long time, so. hoping good things to come from them. They're very energetic, very optimistic of what direction it's going, so I'm excited to see what they accomplish.
Excellent. Okay. Anything else to come before this illustrious group? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Snodgrass, Mr. Clemens, seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate your assistance.
Oh, I was saying, we got a grocery store down here.
Did,
Wouldn't have to be people driving on Center
Did
Street.
Chandler get a hold of you, or did Paul Smith? Dave,
Whitney's glad to see you.
Chandler get a hold of you about
Just cost
Kyle
me
Got some
Mangus?
stuff to sign.
Did he send you that stuff?
15 or whatever.
Paul Smith asked you about
It really.
Yeah.
it? Kyle Mangus?
Oh, someone did, I forwarded it on to.
When I was,
Yeah, oh my gosh, Chandler
Jamaica,
was gonna call you up from the boat.
pretty.
I showed him,
Other
Fort Wayne had a big full
socioeconomic
page, on the front page of the Indiana Star. Or something, yeah, you know, his shops, but they're just interesting story, he's a great.